Well, as the title of my video says, I had to use CPR last night on a man that went into cardiac arrest um, at the bowling alley where I usually go bowling on Thursdays on the league, and been doing it for many years. And uh, one of the individuals that bowls there, he just started having problems, and it's just very, very, very strange, um, having to go through that. I mean, I've been in the medical field all this time, and been around it, and just a few situations, things, things about this situation that just made it a little different. One, uh, I never experienced like an individual being in cardiac arrest that uh, had any um, close ties to myself. I mean, there were always patients of other people, and this one, although I wouldn't say that I knew the individual well. I mean, I certainly knew him. I mean, I have been bowling on this league for several years, so it's somebody that you've had actual interaction with, and um, to see them in that state, where they're talking and bowling, and all of a sudden, then there you are on the floor, and um, in a very troubled state. Um, and two, it's very easy to become very complacent with like your CPR training. Again, being an MRI tech, I need to have a CPR license for my job, and you kind of go into training kind of with that mentality. I just need this for my job, and never really. Maybe in the back of your mind you consider that there may be a possibility that you use this, and maybe I did think that I might have to use it, but if I ever thought I had to use it, I didn't think that I would have to use it outside of work. And so that's what also made it a little bit different. um, when he started having problems, I wasn't over at that end of the bowling alley. I mean, I wasn't that far away, but a few lanes down. But I knew something was happening, and once I realized that he was laying on the floor, um, all I can describe is that you have this feeling of you should be there, and I just followed that feeling, and it took me right right by him, right to the side, and there was a nurse that was at the at his head, and so of course I took as a secondary position right over by the body. Of course, before I ever even got there, I mean, I've always been a little bit psychic, and I always kind of knew what was going to happen. I knew walking over there, I knew right then. I'm like, I'm doing CPR on this guy. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And so it was kind of like this feeling of, well, I'm in the hot seat now, I mean, so we got there, and then at the time he was breathing, so there really wasn't anything to do. Um, and so we were kind of just in a wait and see type of mode, because you certainly don't want to do CPR on somebody that's alive. So a lot of times people kind of equate inaction to as, I don't know how to describe this or say this correctly. Inaction is that you're not really doing anything to help, and so we did end up having two other individuals come uh, while we were there that at least one of them knew CPR. You know, and he used to be a medic, and you know, he came in and you know saw we weren't doing anything, and so he was thinking that we didn't know what we were doing. So he was kind of like, oh, you know, I need know how to know I know CPR, and and he started trying to get in there. So you have like a third person trying to wrestle at the head position of the patient, and he happened to be like a medic in the military. But I can tell you right now, her experience was she was a nurse, so he really shouldn't have been there because she kind of trumps him. You know, she trumps me. I'm just an MRI tech, and so um, I mean she's the next step down from a doctor. I mean, a doctor would obviously be the highest up on the chain. Um, so then, because again he was still breathing. Then there was another individual that came, you know, and so he thought that we weren't doing anything. So he was kind of like, let me in there, you know. And so you have this very stressful situation where you had these other people that um, are almost, I wouldn't say arguing, but they're just kind of like they can't get into agreement on who wants to do the monitoring of the patient. And me at the by the chest, I'm um, feeling for a pulse, but I'm at a peripheral artery, and it's really not an ideal artery to check for a pulse. You really need to check up at the head. And I realized at that point, while they were all kind of discussing and arguing, and you know, up there, nobody was really checking to see the uh, if the man was breathing. And the thing with death in general, it is very clear when death occurs. It's when there's no heartbeat and no breathing. That's clinical death. Um, but there's no signpost that says, "Hey, I've just gone from a catatonic state to death." I mean, there's you really can't tell. So you're really kind of in this guessing mode at that point, and you can second guess yourself, you know, like crazy. And you know, did I start too late, or you know, when did his heart actually stop? And um, you know, of course, the positive thing is we were there right then, and so we were that bridge between them and between 911 and the EMTs. And you know when they took over, so we were kind of like that little bit of a bridge there. Anyway, get back on track. But I finally, when they started arguing, I started realizing I really can't feel a pulse, and so I told the nurse, I was like, you need to check, see if he's breathing. You know, put your ear by his mouth, and you know, check to see if you can feel or hear his breathing. And so she started doing that, and then she, you know, that just at that point, she realized, you know, he wasn't breathing and need to start CPR. And so she gave two quick breaths, and you just start going, you know. And it was just like training. You're just in this action mode, and you're just going. There's really not much thought to it, and yeah, I don't. I feel like I needed to make this video just to just kind of get this off my chest and everything, you know, um, because it's just a very I don't know about emotional, but it's definitely very significant event, and I'm hoping that 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 he survives. At this point, you know, obviously I don't know. And they took him last night, so you know, and from being in the medical field, you know that, you know, that he was in a lot of trouble. And so, um, but you always got to, I guess, remind yourself and tell yourself that the most probable outcome is just as likely as the most negative outcome. So I guess you just got to focus on that. Um, I guess I've rambled along long enough on this. Um, appreciate everybody's time and allowing me to get this off my chest. If you did watch, and just keep in mind, I would say this for those people that are wanting to help when somebody does uh, come to the scene, and you have two people that are there um, that know CPR, and if you're a third person, um, you know, and I'm not blaming anybody or anything, but just as kind of hindsight thinking, you know, to help, um, something that could help would be to just make sure that the two people are are monitoring the patient. That's really all you should be doing. You know, does that person, you know, just be asking questions. Does that person have a heartbeat? You know, does that person have, you know, is that person breathing? You know, have you been checking on that patient? You know, I mean, what's going on? Instead of let me in there, you know, because you don't know if your training really is any better or worse than the people that are just right there by the patient, you know. And everybody's, you know, doing everything they know how to do to to get the person better. And anyway, that's it. So take care.